let's dive right into a really fascinating paradox today. We're going to uncover exactly how the U.S. Constitution acts as a living, breathing blueprint, rather than just some dusty document frozen in time. You see, when the framers sat down to write the rules for the United States, they absolutely knew they couldn't predict every single need of a growing nation. So they built in a mechanism for change. And in this explainer, we're going to explore the what, the why, and the how of that incredible mechanism.
But hey, before we get into the actual nuts and bolts, we need to set our foundation on a core biblical principle of wisdom. As Proverbs tells us, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Changing the absolute highest laws of the land, that's not something to take lightly. It requires immense patience, deep wisdom, and, quite frankly, a whole lot of advisors working together.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with a document not frozen, look at how to amend the Constitution, examine amendments that shaped America, discuss the wisdom of slow change, and wrap the whole thing up with morality, education, and peace.
Okay, moving right into Section 1, a document not frozen. Let's look at the why behind the amendment process.
I want you to think about a rigid, completely frozen system versus a dynamic, living one. If our Constitution couldn't be changed, it would literally be stuck in the past. There's no way it could meet the needs of a nation that grew from 13 original states to 50, while navigating massive shifts in technology, the economy, and just society in general. A living document, on the other hand, well, that acts as a vital bridge from the founding era straight to the present day. It gives us a structured way to correct past mistakes, expand human rights, and continually improve how things run. It adapts to new challenges, all while keeping the core structure of our republic totally intact.
Now for Section 2, how to amend the Constitution. Let's dig into the actual mechanics of Article 5.
To really understand how this works, you've got to realize that Article 5 sets up what is essentially a brutal two-step obstacle course. An idea doesn't even get off the ground unless it's proposed by a two-thirds supermajority of both houses of Congress, or by a national convention called by two-thirds of the state legislatures. I mean, that is massive agreement just to suggest a change. And to actually become law, the proposed amendment has to be officially ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures or conventions. You need an absolute supermajority of states to finally cement it into law.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates just how deliberately difficult the framers made this entire process. Since 1789, there have been literally thousands of amendments proposed. We're talking thousands, including some pretty bizarre ideas, like banning drunkenness outright or renaming the nation the United States of Earth. But out of all those thousands of attempts, only exactly 27 have actually survived this rigorous process to become part of the Constitution. 27. By making change so incredibly hard, the system basically guarantees that only highly debated, deeply considered, and widely supported ideas ever actually alter our nation's blueprint. It completely prevents a slim majority from making hasty, emotionally driven changes to our foundational laws. It ensures absolute stability, while still leaving the door cracked open for necessary, widely agreed upon progress.
Let's transition to Section 3, Amendments that Shaped America. We're going to look at some real-world examples of expanding rights.
We can see exactly how this amendment process works as a powerful tool for justice in the real world. Right out of the gate, in 1791, the process was used to add the Bill of Rights, which secured fundamental protections like freedom of speech, religion, and the press. Fast forward to 1865, and the 13th Amendment officially abolished the horrific institution of slavery nationwide. And much later, in 1971, the 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18. That specific change was largely driven by the realities of the Vietnam War era, where 18-year-olds were being drafted to fight but didn't even have a voice in electing their leaders.
These examples perfectly answer the question of how a living document becomes more democratic over time. It adds vital protections that were simply missed in the original draft. A prime example is the 19th Amendment, which finally granted women the right to vote. Without this difficult yet absolutely necessary mechanism, critical expansions of human rights just couldn't have been added, and the Constitution would have totally failed to meet the moral and practical needs of the American people.
All right, Section 4, the wisdom of slow change. Let's look at this from the biblical morality perspective.
When we bring this all back to the wisdom of Proverbs that we discussed earlier, we see that the demanding math of Article 5 is actually a physical, legal manifestation of that exact idea. The process ensures that lasting change is never rushed or careless. It forces the nation to hit the pause button and rely on the patience and agreement of many advisors, which in this case means the Congress and the individual states.
It proves that while a nation absolutely must be able to correct wrongs, true, lasting progress requires careful counsel.
So, from a biblical morality perspective, the strict amendment process forces our government to exhibit some really specific, vital virtues. A good government has to listen, seek truth, and make deliberate changes that protect human dignity, like ending slavery and expanding voting rights. It shapes its laws through wisdom and justice, rather than temporary political passions, and that ensures that any new law genuinely serves the common good, all through careful counsel and patience.
This really forces us to ask a serious question. What happens to a society when it rushes into major legal changes without careful, patient counsel? Well, if we don't seek wisdom, if we don't have those many advisors to point out our blind spots, we risk making impulsive laws that could strip away rights or damage the very foundation of the country. Taking the hard, slow road of the amendment process, it protects us from our own haste.
Finally, Section 5, Morality, Education, and Peace, the HeroesMart Academy Philosophy. The core philosophy of the HeroesMart Academy Godly Learner series is beautifully simple but deeply profound. It's education combined with morality. Think about it. What is the point of being highly educated, of knowing all the historical facts about Article 5 and the 27 amendments, if you lack the morality to stop making bad choices that hurt yourself and others? Knowledge is power, absolutely, but power without a moral compass is incredibly dangerous. Education without morality will ultimately hurt society because it produces really smart people who just do not care about justice, truth, or human dignity.
Ultimately, when we combine the rigorous pursuit of earthly knowledge, like mastering exactly how our government operates, with profound spiritual wisdom, we secure an incredible promise. As Romans 8:6-7 reminds us, keeping your mind spiritual brings true peace of mind. By understanding how to carefully govern our nation and applying that same counsel-seeking wisdom to our own lives, we build an unshakable foundation. The Constitution proves that true power isn't the ability to change things quickly, it's having the wisdom to change them right. So what changes are you rushing into today that might need a few more advisors? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep seeking wisdom.